Welcome to the CanInnovate podcast. We focus on providing you with timeless professional development secrets and essential business life skills in a mini bite-sized format. I'm unlocking the vault and sharing best practices that management consultants have been using for decades. We're unapologetically curious. Enjoy. Hey, innovators, I've got Armel Beaudry, who's in the house with me today, and he is the CEO and founder of Trebble FM. And before starting this Trebble, he's actually been in the industry for so many years. He worked quite a few years as a software engineer for a startup in the telecoms industry, which eventually got bought out by Nokia. And he's got an amazing software engineering degree from University of Ottawa, and he is no stranger to this space. So welcome, Armel.
Thanks for having me, Sabna. It was a pleasure.
I am really, really excited about this because, this is fascinating. We met at a conference because I kind of like, whoa, what is this? And now we're finally doing this. So this is really great.
Yeah, I was happy we were able to kind of figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. So for our listeners out there, could you give us a kind of an overview of what exactly is Trebble FM?
Of course. So the one sentence is Trebble FM makes it easy for pretty much anybody to create, listen, distribute and listen to shortcasts anywhere. So I'm sure the listeners are thinking, what is a shortcast? And they probably heard of podcasts because they're probably listening to one right now. But a shortcast is really a podcast which is very short. It's usually 1 to 3 minutes. And we make it easy to listen to it on your smartphone or a smart speaker like the Amazon Alexa device or the Google Assistant. Now, for people who are creators, podcasters, YouTubers, or people who have expertise in a specific industry, they can also use the Trebble platform to record and publish those shortcasts. So we have a super easy interface on the web or from your phone to record the content, upload it, and distribute it pretty much everywhere where people can listen to audio content. Now, the kind of not a commercial version of explaining Trebble is down to earth. There's really, if you want an easy way for you to catch up on things that you care about, whether it be sport, music, entertainment, tech, whatever it is, with Trebble, it allows you on a daily basis to catch up on pretty much anything you care about by listening.
So this is great. So out of curiosity, how did this idea come about?
Yeah, so it's a long story, but I'll give you the short version of it. You mentioned earlier that I was working for a tech startup which got acquired by Nokia. And while I was there, I started a music startup as well on the side, which went reasonably well. But I got an email from a user one day that was living in Florida. And he asked me, so maybe I'll explain a little what the music startup was about. So it was basically a platform that made it easy for music influencers to share the music that we're discovering. And they had the ability to add little audio recording with the music that you were sharing with people. And someone from Florida reached out to me out of the blue, and he was like, hey, I love the platform, but I'm just wondering, are you guys thinking of just making it available for audio in general? And when are you guys thinking of bringing it to Amazon Alexa? And I think at the time, being in Canada, I think Alexa wasn't yet available. And I started looking into Alexa and Google Assistant, and I realized there was a bigger opportunity there. Matter of fact, what was interesting with the ecosystem in general was that it was quickly growing. I think at the time, 1 of the 5 Americans actually had an Amazon Alexa device. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And what was more interesting is that people actually were looking for a way to quickly distribute and create content for that new ecosystem. And it turns out with the music startup that I was working on, I've built most of the infrastructure to deliver something like this. So it was really more of a pivot to kind of serve this new market and tackle this new industry. And that's really how Trebble came about.
And how did you come up with the name? Did you come up with some sort of process, or it was just kind of...
So I guess following into the story, the old platform actually used to be called Trebble, so Trebble like the music key Trebble. And since I guess I engineered in a way when I was looking for names for the first startup, I was looking for a name that was generic enough because I knew I had to do with audio, whatever I was doing. So I was looking for something that was simple to pronounce, but that people can quickly think of that was related to audio. And it's really so I've tried to come up with a few different names. Trebble was the simplest name, very easy to pronounce. And also what I thought was very sticky, and maybe you can use in different sentences. So that's kind of really how the name came about.
Oh, I love it. It's great. So I love how this whole thing with Trebble, so it's like 1 to 3 minutes or 1 to 2 minutes, like little short, little bites.
Yeah. So I think, and maybe for the listeners here, what I think I want to share, which is also important. So I mentioned that what we do shortcasts is very similar to podcasts, but the interesting thing to know is that it's a completely different experience. And the good analogy that I like to take is Twitter versus Medium, which is for blog article. If you think about Twitter versus Medium, they both serve text, so both platforms deliver content in a text format. But the main difference is the length of the content, right? Obviously, on Twitter, it's super short. I think now it's 280 characters compared to Medium, where you can create an article as long as you want. But because of that short format, or that different format, it provide a different experience. So what you usually do on Twitter is you follow different people, and every day you go on your Twitter feed and kind of scroll through to kind of catch up on what's going on. Now, to come back to Trebble, it's a similar experience with Trebble, shortcast, and podcast. So if you think about a podcast, it's usually 20, 30 minutes long or even more. But with shortcast, is like I said, it's 1 to 3 minutes. But part of the attractiveness of this short format is that the way you consume is also different. So what you see people do on the platform, I didn't mention it earlier when I was explaining what Trebble is that what people do when they download the Trebble app or they use the website or they're using it on their smart speaker, what they will do the first time they're getting set up is that they follow different people, different outlets that they care about. And right after they've done that, what they do every morning is that they all, usually in the afternoon, but mainly in the morning, they'll come on the platform through the app and just push play. And then the app will go through daily shortcasts from the people they follow. So very similar to the Twitter experience, where they'll be able to quickly catch up on all the things they care about. So like I said, in about 15 to 20 minutes, the majority of people on the platform actually are done listening, right? So this is really, I think it's less than a podcast episode, and you get caught up on pretty much anything you care about. And it allows you to get a bird's eye overview of the things you care about. And something that we're actually adding to the experience that we're working on, I guess I'm sharing it here, is the ability to dive into content, right? So for example, let's say you're listening to a shortcast of around, automotive vehicle. And then there's a great article about it. So you're listening for about a minute, they explain a little bit what's new about it. And then they mention an article, and then you say, hey, I want to listen more. I want to know more about this. They say there's an article. You can pull out the app or ask your smart speaker, and then boom, you're actually you're reading the article. So I like to give the analogy with Twitter because I think there's a lot of similarities with experience. The shortcast format compared to podcast, like I said, is just the size of the content that makes a difference, but it really creates a totally different experience.
This is really fascinating. I love how it's like really short little bites, and you can actually embed it in, your messages on websites. You could add pictures and text, so you can really do the full thing.
Yeah. And like I said, especially for creators, if you are a podcaster, and we'll also notice, what we've actually noticed lately is that a lot of people are actually jumping as creators to use the platform to share content. I actually think people that have thought of starting a podcast, but they felt sometimes that they might not have enough content to share, or they worry about, how much time effort they actually requires. Because a lot of people know, and you probably know that stuff now, it takes a lot of effort to actually make this thing happen just the way that you're actually doing it. It's a lot of effort. So for people that are not sure they have enough time, or not sure that they have the bandwidth to do it, Trebble is a perfect avenue to be able to share your expertise and your knowledge while still leveraging the beauty of audio.
So are you a music enthusiast or a podcast enthusiast?
I am. I'll even be more like I'm an audio enthusiast. So music, podcasts, audiobooks, when it has to do with audio, I'm that guy.
I love it. So what's currently on your playlist?
Actually, I've been listening to a lot of jazz lately. They were very classic. So I do listen to a lot of house music, chill music. Lately, I've been into Nigerian music, which I think is pretty cool. And jazz, Dave Brubeck, Brother Boy. I'm a big fan of Drake, so once in a while I'll be in a Drake. Shout out to Toronto. So yeah, I mean, I listen to pretty much everything. I actually used to do music before. Not do music, but I used to produce, play piano for a while, guitar. So I guess it's kind of in my DNA for some reason.
So this is really cool. I mean, you are no stranger to the startup world. Has there been any lessons learned or aha moments?
Yeah, there have been a few, but I try to pick what I think might be coming from the top of my head here. I think the first one, it's when you decide to start something, you're the first believer, you're your first cheerleader. And I think it's really important in the startup world because you come across, when you're starting something new, it's not always obvious and there's always challenges. But the main thing which keeps you going is really to believe in what you do. And I'll say, as a startup founder, CEO, you are the advocate. You are the person that should be the most believing in what you do, and that is really contagious. You see that people are really successful will tell you by other people can feel that you believe in what you do, and they can feel that the passion behind you that you have. I think it's really important to start a successful startup, because what will happen is that time will get very tough, and if you don't have that faith, that belief in what you do, it's actually easy to give up. And I saw a lot of people giving up on great ideas just because maybe they didn't really fully commit to it and they didn't really fully believe in it. And I saw the also opposite of the equation, people that are really believing in it. And it was hard at the beginning. You saw them struggle, but then at some point, for some strange reason, it just kind of pan out, and just things kind of start kicking off from there. So probably the best, most important thing that I learned in this, and also you have to be patient. I remember when I started, I thought, when I was giving milestones to people or to potential angel investors, I always say, it's going to take about a month, and I realized it will take more time. I think it's important to realize you have to go fast, but you also have to be patient with what you do, because everything doesn't turn off overnight. I mean,
that is such great advice, because we do always tend to want to go faster, but sometimes you just got to take your pace and build on one thing at a time.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that as well, but it takes a long time to create something great, right? So I like to take the story of Uber as an example. I think they've started this. They've had the first cars on the road in 2007, and most people that I know heard of them. Even me, I think I heard of them about 4 years ago. The major people heard of it like 2 years ago, which I think we're talking 2016. So it literally, from the day they started, I think they went IPO this year, 2018. It took about 12 years, right? So, and this is really what the time frame of that people should understand that it really takes to actually create something great. So, yeah.
I love this. I love it. So in the audio industry, what excites you most about it?
I think today, what I think is interesting with audio in general is the fact that, and a lot of people mention that, but is the fact that audio is just in the middle when it comes to content. And explain what I mean. So text is the cheapest thing to produce, right? So as a creator, it doesn't take that much. You can go on paper anyway, just type it, easiest thing to produce. But it's also the most difficult thing for people consuming the content to consume, because it takes a lot of effort to get, for example, the meaning or the tone out of text. On the opposite of the scale, video is probably the most expensive thing to produce for creators. But now on the other side of the coin, for consumers, it's actually the most quickest and effective way to get consume content because it has all the information, right? So it has sound, it has video, and the mashup of both is really powerful. Now, audio sits just in the middle, a little bit more expensive than text, but relatively cheaper than video. But it still gives the best of both, right? So a little bit more cheaper to create than video, a lot more cheaper to create than video, but then it also is a lot more easier for people to consume, right? And it has a lot of interesting properties. One of them that a lot of people mention is the ability to be multitasking, right? So when you're watching a video, you have to use your eyes and your ears. When you read an article, you actually use your eyes. Now with audio, you only have to use your ears, right? So this allows you, for example, and you see a lot of people that consume podcasts, they're doing while they're driving, maybe when you're doing chores at home. So it gives you, or where they maybe exercising, doing sports. So it really, what's interesting with audio, that it has a unique capability. And I think in today we can see how podcasting is growing. I think it's really because people have kind of exhaust the text capabilities and the video, and then looking for something different, and then it just turns out, audio is that little, that smart middle that still need to be explored. I think people are kind of really just getting on to the beginning of it.
I said it's very interesting because they say that audio is people are doing it more because it's on the go. And to your point, video is quite an expensive medium.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, and things. I mean, there's obviously now a lot more tools to create video, but it's still relatively expensive to create versus with audio. All you really need is a mic. You can create it everywhere. You can be in your bedroom creating it. You could be at the office. You could be on the go. Relatively easy, or I would say cheaper. When it comes to cheaper, I really mean time and effort. But the value is also the upside is very good compared to other format that would take the same amount of effort like text. And also, just to come back with Trebble a little bit here, I think what's it makes me even more excited is the idea of shortcast. So today, I think everybody is pretty much familiar with podcasts, but I think what's interesting with shortcast and this new format is really the ability to be able to tap into the fact that we have to be honest here. Like a lot of people are very busy, in day and age where people just want things on demand and they want it fast. That's why platforms like Twitter, Instagram are really thriving. And I think with Trebble, what we're trying to achieve here with Short is really that. It's really giving people the flexibility of audio, but also being mindful of their time and be more effective. And I think that's what even makes me more excited about Trebble and Shortcast, is really the ability to leverage audio, but bring a way for people to be more effective as well. Because a lot of people complain about it, and you're doing podcasts, so you know what it is. You have podcasts go over like an hour 30, and some people that I've talked to and people that are just getting to podcasts, sometimes they mention that, hey, I really want to listen, but it's sometimes very long. And I think Shortcast is really this mechanism, even for podcasters themselves, to be able to deliver information in a way which allow people to at least get a bird's eye overview of the content and give them the opportunity to dive into what they really care about. Because what you care about might actually depend on the day, the time. So it's really a flexible medium format for people to consume content. I think that's really what makes it more exciting.
Yeah, and I think I heard a statistic that a lot of people that listen to podcasts anyways, or audiobooks, they actually speed up.
Exactly, right? So right now, so they speed it up because, again, like you mentioned, they need people just need one more, but they want more for less. Right, they want to get more, but they don't necessarily have the bandwidth. And I think it's in this day and age is very important. One thing that I actually want to share, maybe your listener won't necessarily know that, but I thought it's something to share as well here, is that we've seen already with smart speaker like Amazon Echo, Google Home, I guess you call it now Google Nest. What we've seen is that audio, especially that kind of short audio content, is one of the top 3 things people do with those devices. Right, the first thing is music. The second thing is actually, you might find it funny, but it's actually using timers And what the third thing is actually listening to those shortcasts, right? So on Alexa, people will do it often where they will use a smart speaker in the morning to catch up on their news and other things they care about. So we started seeing this behavioral changes on the smart speaker. And what we're doing actually with Trebble is bringing that experience outside of the smart speaker, not just on voice assistant, but also bringing that experience on mobile and anywhere where it will make sense.
Oh, this is awesome. I mean, it's exciting. And how can people sign up to it? Or is there a fee to join, or how does it work?
So it's a good question. So actually today, if you want to sign up, if you just want to listen, you can download the Trebble app on the App Store or the Android Store. It's a free app. It's free to listen. Now, if you are creators, you can download the app and create content right from the app, but you also, for convenience, use a website. So we have a web app that people can use to record and create content, and it's totally free. And part of the reason we made it free for people to create that type of content is because what we believe in is really empowering people that are creating that type of content. And our big vision here is not just we will probably, and then I'll tell you, there's a lot of technology behind to make this entire thing work. But instead of charging people to host or have them create the content like most podcasting companies will do, I think our idea here is to help people get value off the platform. And on the long term, what we're hoping to do is allow those creators to make money from their content some way, somehow. And we'll just help them make money from it and just take a cut of it. That's kind of how we're seeing how a thing will grow in the future.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, Armel, you've got so many hats that you're juggling. How do you balance it all?
I mean, I think it's really all about priorities. And you asked me the question earlier about, what are the things that you've learned, doing this. And I think one of the things that I've learned is focus. Especially when you're a startup in the early days, what you quickly realize is that you have so many things that you want to do, but you only have 24 hours in a day and so many people that can actually do it. And so what I've learned to do really is to be able to be focused on what I do. And I usually, in any point of time, I usually have 2 or max 3 things that I'm focusing on, not more than 3 things in the entire company. So, and this is really what drives everything that has to be done, right? So there's a lot of things to do, but there's only 2 or 3 key objectives, and I think it's really important to have those really clear and objectives, because it allows you to be more effective with your time. Because once you have those objectives, so what you think is, hey, after this A, B, C, D, E, F. But then you're thinking, hey, what from all those things that I have to do, what is the most impactful thing for the goal that I have to achieve? And when you start asking yourself those questions, then it makes it easier to decide what you actually need to do and what you have to put on the back burner for now. That's usually how I decide what's important to do and be able to manage my time effectively.
Wise words. It keeps your eyes on the prize.
Yeah, exactly.
So, out of curiosity, are you reading anything interesting, or has there been a book that really resonated with you?
One book that I recommend, which I think if you are, I'll recommend 2 books here. The recent book from Reid Hoffman, Blitzscaling. I think it's a great book for people that are starting a technology startup. But as it presents, if you always ever wonder how companies like Facebook, LinkedIn, or Airbnb, Uber made this success, I think it's a good book that outlines the framework and how to get it done and how they were successful and why. And really gave a great perspective that I think a lot of people don't, because it gave me that perspective. The second book that I recommend, which is one of my favorite, and is from an investor called J.C. Calacanis, and he was one of the early investors in Uber, and he has this book called Angel. It's really a book on how to angel invest, but I think it's a good segue, is a good point of view if you're also an entrepreneur, to kind of understand what are the dynamics of the entire ecosystem. Because as the book lays out, it shows how an angel investor should decide on how to invest and how to recognize a great entrepreneur. but it also gives the blueprint for an entrepreneur to understand what's on the other side of the table. And if you're in a startup ecosystem, it's super important to understand that how do you say it? That dynamic, because you have, most likely if you're doing a technology startup, you most likely will need to raise money. And I think a lot of time, and I've been falling for this as well, there's a misunderstanding on what other people in the ecosystem, other than the actual entrepreneur, the company expect. And that book, Angel, really gives that perspective. So if I would recommend 2 books, it's Angel from Jessica Canes and Blitzscale from Reid Hoffman.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And out of curiosity, what do you do for fun when you get some downtime?
That is a good question. I do have fun. I'm very busy, but I do have fun. So what I like to do, I watch a lot. When I have a downtime, I like to watch movies. And lately I've been into watching Nigerian movies. So I might have mentioned that earlier, but I'm originally from Cameroon, which is in Central Africa. And so recently I was looking for a way, because like I said, I'm very busy, don't have a lot of time, but as entertainment, I like to watch those Nigerian movies, because what's interesting is that usually like an hour 30 long. And what's interesting is like maybe it might be like 10 p.m. in the evening. I've worked all day, and like, hey, I just want to distress, and I'll plug one of those movies and start watching from the beginning to the end. And it's usually really entertaining. So it's kind of, I'll tell you, probably like my main entertainment at this day and time. What I like to do as well is I do a lot of sports. So I run a little bit once a week. I try over the weekend. Movies, spend time with families. Again, because I don't have a lot of time, I like to spend time with my family. I actually have my parent that now staying here close to me, so I have the opportunity to spend more time with them. I recently got fiance, so I have a significant other as well. So trying to spend time with them as well when I have a little bit of time. So yeah. Don't have a lot of time, but I try to make it worth when I have. That's awesome. And finally, how can our listeners connect with you? Yeah, you can connect with me on Twitter at Armel Beaudry. Definitely through email as well. You can email me. Probably the best way to reach out is by email. I'm on Twitter from time to time at Armel Beaudry. You can reach out to me by email at armelbeaudry@trebble.fm. Simply, if you also want to catch up with what's going on with Trebble, just follow Trebble on Twitter and visit the website. And if you're out there, just also go and check out the app. I think if you're an entrepreneur or a busy individual like me, it's definitely an app for you to have. Sounds great. Thank you so much. You have been brilliant. Really enjoyed this. Thank you again for having me, Sam. That was a pleasure, and I'm so happy we're able to connect and make this thing happen. Super happy to do this. Fantastic. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining and listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episode, please share with your friends and colleagues. You can share on social media, the email link, the newsletter, and so on. Let's continue to support these Canadian innovators and help them really grow into bigger brands. Awareness and knowledge is totally key. Anyways, I can't wait to talk to you next week. Cheers.